On this week's episode, we are joined by the founders of the Veteran Outdoor Alliance. These combat veteran U.S. Marines have done everything under the sun, from scuba diving shipwrecks to sledding with Arctic dogs to spending 6 months hiking the PCT in the Pacific Northwest. So stay tuned for the whole episode for more cool stories like this.
There's some crazy knuckleheads. One of them bought a boat, and we convinced the college while we were on the GI Bill to write us an independent study program so that we could stay on the GI Bill while we sailed the Caribbean.
Welcome to the Smoke Pit. Joining us today, double trouble. We got both gentlemen here named Josh. One, Joshua Bridger. He was in my squad for my second deployment to Iraq. And then last but not least, Josh Forsyth, who was in our company when we made that deployment to Iraq. Gentlemen, how the hell are you?
Outstanding, as First Sergeant used to say. How are you?
Motivate, dedicate. They're here to talk about one of the super cool initiatives that they have going on, the Veteran Outdoor Alliance, and it's an absolutely fantastic organization, and we get the pleasure of learning more about that today. But before that, I want to do some character development and give you more reason to emotionally invest into their story. So, Mr. Bridger, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to since we stopped slaying bodies for our beloved Corps?
When I got out, I became a scuba diving instructor for a little while in the Florida Keys. I did the security contracting thing for a little bit. Had the opportunity to hike the Appalachian Trail, which was awesome, which kind of ties into our veteran outdoor mission here. I currently work as a cybersecurity professional. Also a member of a local search and rescue team that I'm heavily active in for the sheriff's offices.
Well, fantastic. So Mr. Forsyth, also known by his moniker of Dragon Flame 69, he's very adamant in the pre-show brief that he is referred to as that. So Mr. Dragon Flame 69, what have you been up to since we got out?
Just being wild. Moved down to the Keys, went to school for scuba diving, studied marine biology. Got into the diving world after that, just working in scuba diving, and got an opportunity to go sailing. Went sailing around a good majority of the Caribbean. Kind of got really fascinated with clouds and chatted it up with my friends about how to explore clouds, and thought parachutes were the best way to do that. So I picked up skydiving as a hobby for a while, and eventually got hired at a company to pack parachutes, got to jump for free. Ended up working as a cameraman for a while and traveling around, and hurt myself skydiving. Went back to scuba diving again, and worked a bunch of odd jobs in between and stuff, wandering around.
So it seems like one of the most common things for veterans to do when they get out is to find some sort of adrenaline pumping hobby, which if you ask anybody what their perception of scuba diving would be, you'd think it would be tranquil and peaceful, and that it is for the majority of the time. But every once in a while, you get something wrong with your regulator, or your gear gets caught on something, and you get that turkey baster of adrenaline through your arm, and you're like, all right, this is it. I'm about to die 11 stories under the surface of the water.
Yeah, it smartens you up sometimes.
What is your favorite site to dive?
I've done most of my diving in the Keys, and the Vandenberg is a staple here. It's a huge ship. It's in the 150 feet of water. The deck is sitting at 95 feet. The structure of the ship, extends up to 60, 70 feet underwater.
Oh, wow.
It's a huge boat. You could dive this thing for years and not explore it fully, and,
yeah.
It's really cool. I like shallow reef dives though. I'm big into nature and the animals and stuff like that. Like looking at them. So Lukey is a big one for me, and I fortunately get to work there. So I get to go there almost every single day.
B-Ridge, what about you? What do you have a favorite dive site or a least favorite one?
Yeah, I definitely have a least favorite one. I'm glad that you went there because that's where I was going to go. When I learned how to scuba dive, I'm from Buffalo, New York originally, and I learned how to scuba dive early on in high school, and the only larger body of water to perform open water diving is the Great Lakes. And so my open water dives for my PADI, or maybe I think it was NAUI at the time that I had open water basic dive cert was in Lake Erie, and it was cold and it was dark and it was visibility that was like maybe to your elbow, and it was awful. And then so when I went down to the Keys and kind of continued to pursue scuba diving, definitely got very spoiled with almost unlimited visibility and
Yeah.
beautiful reef and tropical animals and fishies. Big difference.
Yeah, I went in the reverse because I went down to Roatan in Honduras to learn how to scuba dive with Warfighter Scuba, and it's some of the best scuba diving in the world. And every place that I've been since there has not measured up. A lot of freshwater
Yeah,
diving is miserable in comparison.
yeah, you're spoiled now.
Yeah, freshwater
Yeah,
diving is just miserable. You know, you
Yeah,
have to have like these 5 mil suits on. You're in some quarry, like you said. The visibility is about as far as out as you could reach. Like,
yeah, that's
very
awesome.
cool.
Freshwater diving is like, yeah, no visibility, cold, dark. Maybe there's some abandoned vehicles in your fresh body of water. Maybe there's some crime scene material in your body of water. Who knows? But it's
Very
definitely
likely.
doesn't compare to tropics.
the crime scene is funny that you mentioned that. I don't want to have to do the paperwork on this, man. Like Bridger and I used to do the tactical site exploitation and sensitive site exploitation. So it's like you so much as find like a fucking like a 7.62 casing, and it was like 4 pages of paperwork and 6 hours worth of convoys.
Yeah, we're just gonna kick that back under the washing machine.
Yeah, we only a little bit of HME, only like 155 shell. Like you can keep that. You know, that's for home
Right.
defense.
It was the perfect amount to not have
It's
to
for
have us
one
go
defense.
anywhere else and ask any more questions.
To the point where like, bro, like I don't want to send you to prison. Can you just like sweet like to throw this in a ditch somewhere?
Yep. Yep.
Be like, all right, I won't arrest you if you promise only to use this on first platoon.
Oh, damn.
Damn. I think
Good times, man. That's good times.
I mean, I know the deployment that you had before our first deployment. It was definitely different. And like, how long did you stay in for? 12 years, about right?
About that, yeah.
About 12. So there must be a lot of difference just in between the timelines and the different locations of how things worked, because the difference between our first deployment and our second deployment were staggering, just with location, what we were allowed to do, leadership,
Flight
culture.
suits.
Flight suits were nice. Yeah, flight suits were cool.
The one
Uh,
benefit.
yeah, yeah. But it is weird how much it changes from place to place, unit to unit, location to location.
Your unit SOPs generally remain the same. You know, you change some things here and there. But what they really don't prepare you for is, in my opinion, an even uh, bigger contrast and differences between being in the military and then finding yourself as a civilian. And so, a lot of veterans have come together to form communities, to rekindle some of that camaraderie, to bring fellow service members together, to kind of share in activities and events that like-minded individuals would enjoy. So that way, we're keeping an eye on each other and we're making sure that we're having healthy, fulfilling, and productive lives, particularly when it comes to mental health. And that's exactly what you guys did with Veteran Outdoor Alliance. And so, if you don't mind me asking, like, how the hell did you come up with that idea?
It definitely started with us, as in Forsyth and I here. We have kept up, since the Marine Corps. We have had a lot of similar outlooks, experiences, philosophies, and trying to come to terms with our military service, everything that it entailed, and trying to find our right fit back in the civilian world, which is obviously not unique to us at all. It's a very common experience for anybody who served and eventually makes a transition back. Um, I think a lot of what we were trying to do when we first put our heads together was try to think about what we like, what has helped us, what we've found beneficial from our own transition,
Yeah,
and trying to create a framework to help promote and facilitate access to those things for other veterans. So a lot of that has come from these outdoor experiences. So like Myself, for example, I had the opportunity to do Outward Bound veteran programs. They have really fantastic programs. I would highly recommend them to any veterans if they're looking for a program to participate in. They had this epic dog sledding expedition that I got to do in the Boundary Waters area of Minnesota. It was like negative 40 degrees at night. We had those
Oh cow.
crazy Arctic boots that are just gigantic rubber white. We slept under the stars every night out on the ice and giant 7-layer sleeping bags. We got to
I'm so
do
jealous.
cross country
I just
skiing.
am so fucking jealous of that.
You should go.
Continue.
It's available to
I
you.
want to.
So yeah, I mean that experience was really cool. It was outstanding to be back with a bunch of other veterans. We immediately clicked into a squad on like day one when we were there. Everybody was locked on. Hey, you get the firewood. You're gonna make the fire. You're gonna take care of the dogs. You move the gear. Um, Getting back into that environment with you know the camaraderie of being with people who understand your experiences was really
Yeah.
cool. So after that, I took on another experience because I wanted a little bit more nature. I think I got a little taste of it at that point, and I wanted
You
some
didn't have
more.
enough with an entire
Didn't have enough.
career in the infantry? You weren't sick of Mother Nature?
No, which is something that we actually hear a lot. Is people from the combat arms backgrounds that are like, "No, I'm good. Never again. You want me to do what? You guys are gonna hike up a mountain? No, thanks. I'll just hang out here."
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be able to hike a few mountains and to do a few cool things since I've gotten out. And I gotta tell anybody out there who's listening, there's a huge difference between going to the field as a grunt or being in the military and going into the field under your own accord with your own equipment, your own schedule. Because we all have this idea. It's like, okay, like we're going to the Sierra Nevadas, a beautiful piece of real estate up there in Bridgeport. But when you're in the Marine Corps, it sucks, right? You have inadequate gear, you got to carry everything, you got to carry all this extra stuff, body armor, weapons, ammunition, stuff like that. You're going at their pace. You have some motivated first sergeant who's just, does whatever steroids he can find to keep running 18-minute 3 miles
Yeah,
at the age of
putting us all to
40.
shame. Yep.
Yeah, and so you have this guy who his entire job is just to scream at you, and you got fire watch, you got to do operations, you have MREs, it's miserable, can't be on your phone, like you can't take pictures without getting fussed at, and so like going back somewhere and doing it not as a Marine, night and day experience, so much better.
Yeah, it's almost like reclaiming the outdoors for yourself in a non-traumatic way. Um,
Yeah,
but I'll let Forsyth talk about his
It's funny.
initial experiences and stuff as well, and how we were starting out.
Like right when COVID started out, we were like, "Ah, we should start an outdoor nonprofit." It's pretty much how the
yeah.
start went.
Right when COVID started, AJ and I were thinking of some stuff to do, like because he and I are are expeditious fellows, and I'm a bit of an outdoor cat. And I was like, man, I'm so cooped up, like I can't travel anywhere, like it sucks. It's not good for my mental health. And so I was trying to find alternative methods to be able to get out of the house. And I saw that there was this island for rent on Airbnb. I paid $25 and I got an island that was maybe about an acre big, and it was in the middle of the Rappahannock River. And so AJ and I loaded up our gear. We got an inflatable kayak, and um, we set out in this kayak to pedal out to this island. And it wasn't more than like maybe 100 yards of a paddle. It wasn't anything righteous or anything. But here's the thing: if you haven't paddled anywhere in a while, you forget how fucking long it takes. So when we first got in, he started blasting Pirates of the Caribbean on his like portable speaker, and then we're like maybe 20 feet away from the edge of the riverbank because of the current by the time it ended. And so he had to like go back and like hit it on repeat. But by that point, the boat starts spinning because I'm paddling on one side and he didn't tell me to stop. And so now we're flipped around. And it took fucking 10 times longer to get there than we thought. We finally get to shore. We're out of breath. But we made it and we were happy. And we set up our tents and, we made our little jet boil coffees and, had our own food that were better than MREs. Slept out um, under the stars, and it was absolutely amazing. And So all in all, I think we spent like 10 times more on the food and coffee than we did on the actual island itself. So no, you're absolutely right. Particularly during the start of COVID, it's like everybody was just kind of looking around, like, what the hell is there to do?
Yeah, it was weird. I don't. I think we kind of started up right before everything kicked off, so we're like ready to get started, and then COVID kind of hit, and then we were kind of like, oh, nobody really wants to get together.
Yeah.
that's that's kind of weird. And so like we did something like we ran like a virtual 5K, few things like that. It was in Florida. Things were pretty open pretty quick. And, like after a couple months, it was just like
Yeah.
full on, and so people from all over the country were visiting Florida. So it's been really normal for me the whole time, but it was also still kind of weird. So I kicked off and like did a bike trip. We like ran a fundraiser. I did the East Coast Greenway from Key West to Calais, Maine, which is on the Canadian border. It's like,
Yeah, and that really is like kind of the initial genesis story. Is
yeah,
we had our heads together. We wanted to do something. We wanted to form a nonprofit. We wanted to raise money to help veterans to go have these nature experiences similar to what we've had. And Forsyth was already like he's kind of like a modern day Forrest Gump. You don't really realize it yet, but
dude, check
he's
it out, bro. I got the hammer.
besides he's through hiked the PCT, which is where you hike from Mexico to Canada on the west coast. Um, and then after that, he's just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna just bike the entire East Coast. It's like, what do you mean you're gonna bike the entire East Coast? Yeah, I'm just gonna start in Key West and I'm gonna ride my bike all the way up the East Coast to Canada, which is called the East Coast Greenway. And he ended up, I'm gonna brag for him. He ended up breaking the speed record for this
Oh
East
wow.
Coast Greenway without even trying. He didn't know that there was a record. Uh, so and that
Thanks,
was all
man.
amid COVID. So nobody really even wanted to talk to him or touch him or be around him because everybody's terrified of COVID. So
Yeah.
Right.
cool adventure for him, not a great fundraising opportunity because
Yeah,
of
fair
COVID
enough.
We
terror.
did. We did all right.
We did all right.
Yeah.
Could have done
Oh wait,
better.
I spent more than we raised.
Yeah,
Like out of pocket, just
but
doing
you
my
had
little
fun.
bike trip. I had a great time. It was a great experience, man. It was really cool, and I lost like 40 pounds. Like I was in incredible shape after that. So
Right on. So, if you had to summarize, in a few sentences, what is kind of like the how does Veteran Outdoor Alliance help veterans? Because I see that you have a lot of resources on your website, a lot of different organizations, and a lot of different locations. So, if you had to summarize it and boil it down to kind of, I guess you say, like a mission statement, what would you say?
Our mission statement is empowering veterans through the outdoors. Um, what that comes out into practice is trying to provide as much information, resources, and funding for veterans to get them out to all these awesome outdoor programs. Yeah, like you said, there's a ton of them. I mean, you and I are both experienced with them. Warfighter Scuba is awesome. They have a really good reputation. A lot of veterans don't know where to find these. They have never heard of them before. So we're also trying to consolidate all that information on our website,
Mm,
and kind of build partnerships with other organizations so we can create local chapters of veterans in the local community and give them all the resources and point them in the right direction. We also do some trips for ourselves. We do scuba training. We do some mountain stuff out here, climbing, a little bit of mountaineering and hiking. Uh, that about sums it up.
well, fantastic. Is there a I know it's very regional specific, but is there a specific program that you are really excited about?
Yeah, we're getting ready to kick off on the 4th of July. Some diving training. I can pass it over to Forsyth for that.
yeah, I don't know. I just popped out for a second and came back. But yeah, and 4th of July we were planning on. We got some people set up to do open water dive training and stuff like that. We've man, done went out the Keys 100 Ultra Marathon twice, raising money for that stuff.
Yeah.
That was super fun. Um, but yeah, we're getting ready to do dive training. Then we got some people that are already certified. They're gonna come down and just hang out with the group and dive with us, and we might be able to push people on. Maybe go do a shipwreck or something like that. I was hoping at least the guys that are experienced are gonna go out on one of the last days, go dive the Vandenberg.
Fantastic. And so we essentially have two target audience when we're well, I guess three target audience, if you will. We're reaching out to this. So veterans who want to participate, they can go to veteranoutdooralliance.org and check out the all the information that's there. They can also check out your social media that is linked through there, so they can also find it. And so that's how they can take care of themselves there. Um, the website Veteran Outdoor Alliance is the handle on Instagram as well, and so that's them. And so now the other half of it is people who want to donate. So there's also the ability to donate on your website, and you can kind of specifically see like where everything's going. You guys have a great reputation for transparency and making sure that like everything is appropriated in the correct ways and stuff. And so then the last category, I guess you could say, would be people who have some sort of outdoor program with a good reputation, that they have a similar mission. Say they want to become an affiliate, or they want to also offer their services and have you guys help provide the information to your subscribers. So how can they get in contact with you to do that?
Yeah, I mean, they can reach out to us on Instagram. That's awesome. We also you can reach out info@veteranoutdooralliance.org. Yeah, if you're veterans and you want to connect, or if you're other organizations or other people that might want to try to give us some support, yeah, feel free to reach out. We love this stuff. This is what we do. This is not something that we're doing to make ourselves rich or try to capitalize off of it. We're already doing these things. We're already scuba diving. We're already hiking mountains. We know these things work. We know the benefits, and we're trying to bring as many veterans along with us as we can. So any way that anybody wants to get involved, feel free to reach out.
And as a nonprofit organization, you guys have the mission of putting veterans first. And uh, with that, oftentimes veterans who are helping other veterans, they they put a lot into what they're doing, and sometimes they forget to fill themselves back up. And granted, you guys are lucky that you can go out and do these amazing activities with your philanthropic endeavors. But when you're trying to make sure everyone else is having a good time and everyone else is safe and everyone else is being able to have a good experience, that can be a little taxing. So I'm going to ask you each three questions. One, what was the best trip that you've ever done in your life? Two, what trip would you take if money wasn't a factor? You could plan out any sort of trip, and budget wasn't a consideration. And then three, is there any sort of place that you would want to dive, scuba dive, skydive, hike, or anything like that? That if you could, if things like the law or terrorists or anything weren't a consideration.
Mr. Forsyth?
Okay, can you run a question one by me one more time?
Yeah. Question one: what's the best trip you've ever been on? Where'd you go and what'd you do?
Okay, I would say that would be hiking the PCT for me. I think that was the first time like I gave myself personally a lot of time alone in the wilderness. We went with I went with the Warrior Expeditions. That was on the recommendation of Bridger, who did the Appalachian Trail for them. And yeah, it was just 6 months of just like being by yourself in the woods, man. And you get to know yourself when you're alone. Like you get moods or like you make up stories in your head. You get upset or angry, and you just kind of realize it's all internal.
Yeah.
It's like a deployment for yourself.
For sure.
6 months.
Oh yeah.
Instead of deploying for the military, take a deployment for yourself. Go out and hike in
Oh,
one of these
wow.
long distance trails.
Yeah, that's
Just
a
for
great
you,
way to
your own
describe
time.
it. For sure. That's a great way to describe it. It's a deployment for yourself. But man, it was great. Like when I was disappointed when I was done, I just wanted to keep going. I
I
almost
bet.
wanted to just turn around and walk back, but it was snowing really hard, so I was like, "Fuck that!" I'm done with
Fair,
this wilderness, and I also had lost a ton of weight on that trail, so but that was great. And
fair.
anybody that thinks that you can't walk across the country, it's fucking stupid easy. You just get up and you walk every day as far as you want until you're done. It just takes 6 months is not a long time. People go to community college for longer than that, and it's a total waste of time.
It's easy
So
for us when we're used to carrying hundreds of pounds
yeah,
of gear, and then you're like,
yeah.
wait, 30 pounds? That's it? Yeah, it's nice.
For the most part, my like observation of civilians during the experience was that they needed to find a group of friends to help them finish. They needed a tramily, I believe is what they called it,
Oh,
a trail family.
motivation.
And right, and I was like, I'm actually here to be left alone and just walk through the woods. So, yeah, like the wilderness thing wasn't a trouble. That was easy. It was just like going on a little hike every day, and it was like on a leisurely. We go on humps in the Marine Corps where you're just tortured to death hiking, and there you can walk at whatever pace you want, take breaks and eat snacks and have fun and walk as far as you want every day. You can only walk as far as you can every day anyway.
Yeah.
So like the worst thing you could do is try to make a plan or a schedule. So it was very relaxing after a while to just do it. And it's very daunting at first with the amount of mileage you have to do, and you can't think about it in that way. Just go day to day. And after a while, it's like you're just you know tearing miles up, and you can't even believe you walked 1,500 miles already or 2,000
Oh,
miles already, and you're like, oh man, I'm almost done now. Oh man, and you start getting kind of bummed out. You're like, oh man, it's been a lot of fun. I don't know if I really want to say. I slow down
were
and
there
look at the
places
songs.
along the way? I'm sorry. Were there places along the way that you were able to stop to like get provisions and stuff?
Oh yeah, about every week, about once a week. You're hiking for about a week on the PCT, and then getting out. I think on the AT it has and some places more frequent stops, maybe 2 or 3 days in between small towns. But they're all
Right.
small towns. It's not like you're walking into a Walmart every 2 or 3 days or something.
So, if someone wanted to do that, how much would you say that they had to, that they would have to allocate budget wise to be able to afford the provisions? Because one of the biggest factors that I would say of taking 6 months off to go to the woods is that like I need to make money to pay my bills,
For
and
sure.
so if I'm not walking, like how much do I have to save? If I'm not working, how much do I need to save to be able to not starve on the trail?
If you're a veteran, quit your job, sell your house, and contact Warrior Expeditions. Ask Sean, ask Sean Gobin to hook you up. That guy's awesome.
Yeah, so do you have like an estimate or a figure that you can kind of give people like a ballpark?
Um, it's hard to say. It depends on like what you want. If you do it real minimal, I would say like after you buy gear and you get done, you're probably looking at 7 to 10 grand.
Bridger, so I'll ask you this question. What was the best trip you've ever been on?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to copy Forsyth's answer. The best trip I've been on was doing the through hike for the Appalachian Trail. I did that in 2016. It was exactly what I needed in my life at that time. Was kind of definitely was feeling a bit directionless, not really sure where to go, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to live, what I wanted to do professionally, any of those sort of things. And so yeah, getting hooked up from this awesome organization. Forsyth mentioned is Warrior Expeditions. It's run by Sean Gobin, who's a Marine Corps veteran himself. Um, they take a lot of the thoughts away from you, any of the concerns about logistics and everything. Like you said, if you're going to self fund something like this, you're looking at maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 grand for a 6 month trip. Didn't
Yeah.
have to worry about that. They gave us all the gear. They help us with transportation. They provide logistical stops for you along the way. So it really just freed up my mind to focus on myself for 6 months and hike from Georgia to Maine.
Right on. So now, if you could do a trip where money was no object, and you can make it as lavish or as long or as fancy as you want, what would you do?
I really want to go to New Zealand personally. That's kind of my bucket list item. And rent a van. I know there's something that you could do. New Zealand is kind of like an outdoor mecca with access to the water and the mountains. I'd love to just chill out, hang out in a van, drive around, go mountain climbing, uh, go scuba diving, relax. I would
Just
take like
have
another
all
6 months and do that.
Yeah, just have all your gear in the back of the van and just go do everything.
Yeah, most of my fantasies involve minimalism, where it's just like get rid of this house, get rid of this job, get rid of all these concerns, and just live out of a van, live out of a pack. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, have your parachute, your buoyancy compensating device,
Yep.
and your rucksack just in the back of a van, and just go hike, fall, and swim everywhere.
Yeah, relax, have a campfire, make some
Yeah.
good food, be on your own schedule.
Well, Dragonflame 69, where would you go, and what trip would you take if you didn't have to worry about funding?
I would buy or build like a 40-foot Warham style Polynesian catamaran, and I would sail it around the world for a long time. And
That's it. We're just talking about his retirement plan, basically.
Yeah,
yeah, and I would just go dive and just explore, man, just all over the world. I sailed a good bit of the Caribbean, and that was like that sparked a lot of like just adventure for me. Like far more is possible than what you think. I went out with like 3 other veterans that were just like there's some crazy knuckleheads. One of them bought a boat, and we like convinced the college while we were on the GI Bill to write us independent study program so that we could stay on the GI Bill while we sailed the Caribbean. Yeah, we got some funding through like a British organization called Reef Check, and we did reef surveys all around the Caribbean for them, and we basically sailed from island to island, like bar hopping and fixing the boat for like 4 months,
and
and
studying the reefs.
and dive in all these crazy fucking places that nobody goes.
Yeah,
So it was super cool.
that's
And
amazing.
I'd like to just go sail the world one day, man, like all over. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah, if I could go anywhere and money was no option or was no problem, I would probably want to go to one of those like igloo resorts in the Arctic Circle,
Okay.
like full
That
spa
sounds
package.
cool.
So like I don't want to be cold anymore. I've got nerve damage from the beginning stages of frostbite thanks to
Yeah,
the Marine Corps.
a
Yeah.
hot oil massage in an igloo. Okay.
Yeah, like you're in one of those igloos, you're getting a hot oil massage, you looking up and see the northern lights. Like it'd be beautiful, right?
Okay. That's
Um,
pretty badass.
so the next question would be, what would you do if there wasn't the threat of repercussion, if you will? One of the most vivid dreams that I've ever had in my life. I remember I was standing at a great height, and I was just looking out into the horizon, looking into the ocean, and then I started falling backwards. And as many of us who have jumped out of perfectly good planes and helicopters know, like sometimes like when you fall out, like all you see is your feet in the sky, right? And so in the dream, all I saw was my feet, and then I saw the top of this statue, and I just realized I had fallen off the Christ the Redeemer statue in Brazil. And so immediately I had to flip over and pull my shoe because it's not like a super tall statue to base jump off of. But I remember
Yeah,
that
you
being
don't
just
have
one of the
long.
most vivid dreams that I've ever had. And then kind of like coasting down, and the cops were waiting for me, and then I saw somebody did that in real life. They took his ass straight to jail. And so if there wasn't the threat of being arrested, I would definitely love to make that dream a reality. Uh,
I
so uh,
just do it, man. Get arrested. Dude, you know how
that
trust
is
me.
not good advice.
I've landed on a highway under a parachute, and the cop will pick you up and take you wherever you want to go. They're happy to talk to you. If they arrest
And
you,
that's in
it's gonna be like
America.
it's gonna be one of those VIP arrests. We're like, yeah, we gotta arrest him, but dude, like, tell us the story. Oh man, what do you want? you want a snack? My wife will make you some food. Like, you're gonna be like the cool dude in the prison. You're not gonna be like
No,
some
they have
guy that
laws
like
specifically
committed real
prohibiting that
crimes.
because of that guy. And it's like, oh, you want a snack? How about some prison food with a side of penis?
Oh well, well,
But what about you, Mr. Forsyth? If there was no fear of repercussion, like would you go back to the Middle East and hike a mountain
fuck no.
range? Where would you go then?
No repercussions.
Yeah, like obviously there's some beautiful places across the world where the land is monitored by some shitty governments, or
Mm.
there are places that are off limits, or you need permits, or whatever the case is. Like, would you want to be like that one guy from Red Bull and like dive off the ISS and
All right. So I know this one guy. His name is Inya. He stole a MiG-21 fighter jet from Cuba, and he landed it. He landed it in Boca Chica Air Station. They've made movies about this guy. He's crazy. They watch him still. If I could, I would steal that same MiG-21 fighter jet, and I would fly it back to Cuba. And then I would go scuba diving there, man, because fucking Cuba's supposed to be amazing, because they don't allow any fishing or anything there for their citizens and stuff. So their reefs are supposed to be some of the most pristine reefs in all of the Caribbean, which would be like a baseline of understanding for scientists to get an idea of what the reefs should look like in the Caribbean. But we're not allowed to fuck around with Cuba. Sometimes scientists are allowed to go over there. They're not allowed to take or touch anything. They even limit pictures and stuff they're allowed to take. But I'm interested in it. I find it. I would love to fucking go to Cuba and swim around everywhere they got around there and check it out and see what the ocean would look like if people didn't fuck with it. Because
pop up in Guantanamo Bay and moon the Marines on post and swim
yeah,
away?
somebody, like just swim away.
Have fun on post, Pogue.
Yeah.
Yep.
Security forces isn't real infantry, and you swim
Fucking
away.
boot. Yeah. Whatever. But,
nice 2 ribbons, Corporal.
Yeah, I would love to. I think visiting Cuba would be really, and it's crazy for me because where I live, I'm, about 90 miles from Cuba, so it's like it's not inaccessible in any way other than that I'm not allowed to go. And we watch. I work on the water, so I watch refugees on rafts on a regular basis come ashore. Passing by us. I watch Border Patrol and a Chinook helicopter cross over me several times a day, like looking for people. I've watched boats of, hundreds of Haitians on handmade boats wash ashore in like $1 million neighborhoods. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, you just have to keep an eye on what regulations are going on, because I think it was back in 2018. My buddy AJ and I, we went down to Cuba under the person-to-person exchange visa.
Now I'm jealous.
Yeah, we got to sit at Hemingway's bar, which apparently he was an absolute drunkard. He had 3 favorite bars. There's 3 places down there that claimed that was his favorite, and I'm sure they all were. Not to dispute the claim.
Right.
We got to go snorkeling. We didn't quite get to bring scuba equipment down, but we did get to go snorkeling, and it was absolutely beautiful. It seemed like every restaurant had a live band. It felt like Havana was alive. If you get the opportunity.
I thought I was cool for saying I wanted to go to Cuba, and then Sharp's like, "Oh yeah, when I went to Cuba, it was fucking amazing."
You guys got so many more cool stories on me. Let me have this one, okay?
Yeah, that's good.
So, Mr. Bridger, if you could go anywhere without fear of repercussion, what would you want to see?
So, I live in the mountains now, and I've never been to Afghanistan. I've had a bunch of friends who have, and have kind of relayed their experiences to me. I think it would be awesome if the Taliban could figure their shit out and make it a tourist, excuse me, destination.
It already is a terrorist destination.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of beautiful unclimbed, first ascent routes that climbers and mountaineers have no access to, just
Yeah.
because of the political situation there.
I feel like they'd respect your beard too, you know?
I might be able to
No
blend in
doubt.
a little bit.
Yeah. Like you just shake your beard and a rabbit falls out, and they're like, ah, yes, I can also trade.
Yep.
Is there a region specific in Afghanistan, or would you just want to hike the whole country? Are we starting in the Hindu Kush?
You'd have to tell me, brother. I've never been. You tell me where to go.
Yeah,
Guys, hit me up with suggestions for my road trip.
Right on then. So we can find you guys at veteranoutdooralliance.org. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave the listeners before we let you get back to falling and diving and climbing off of things?
Go outside and go do some shit. Learn some new shit. Do some new shit. Ugh, don't get stagnant and lazy. I think everybody can relate. And, we've lost a lot of good people over the years, and it's probably no more than isolation and people being stagnant. So you should keep active and keep relationships with your friends, make new friends, go out and do stuff, man. And, if we can help you out, that's great. If not, we can help you, point you in the right direction, or at least give you a high five. Whatever.
Right on. Mr. Bridger?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Getting stagnant is awful. I think we've all had our experiences with an idle mind being the devil's playground. Try to engage in outdoor experiences if you can. Start small. You don't need to go climb Mount Everest. You can just go for a walk in a garden and go from there. Maybe plan a weekend camping trip and kind of ratchet it up. Whatever you want to do. This is not an extreme sport competition. This is more of a mental health movement of getting veterans into the outdoors. Try to help us connect and rebalance and try to bring some peace to our community.
Do you ever find that when you do these events with veterans that maybe they get a little over ambitious and realize maybe they have been a little bit more stagnant than they had come to realize, and maybe they aren't as good at hiking as they used to be?
Yeah, definitely. We've got both ends of the extreme. People that have no business kind of engaging in these activities. They have such an overblown idea of what they are capable of. They've put on a few civilian pounds since they've been on active duty, and they have no business climbing a 14,000 foot mountain. And there's also the opposite side of that, is we have people come out and they've got something to prove, it seems like, and they just want to smoke the entire hike and leave everybody else in the dust.
Yeah. Don't be those guys.
It's it's fun. It's fun either way, but I think it's also I've been that person that like went out with high expectations and like crushed myself. When I started the PCT, I destroyed my feet. I carried way too much like water and weight, extra gear, stuff I didn't need. Destroyed myself, and like you kind of figure it out in a different ways. Like I think we get used to that in the Marine Corps, is like full water, everything
Yeah.
you own, put it in your pack and walk. Shut up.
Better to have
It's
something
like,
and not need it than need something
yeah,
and not
right.
have it.
And then after a while,
2 is 1, 1 is none.
Yeah.
right. After
Why
a
do I
while,
have
you just
14 laundry pins?
yeah, 12 canteens. But it's like after a while, like you get smart and you realize like, oh, water to water. If I only have to walk 4 miles to water, like I need like a bottle of water. I don't need a bunch of stuff. I can just fill up water at this next spot, and that was really nice for me on the PCT. It was just like learning to like relax, and I kind of quickly realized that the schedule was like the enemy. That people that made schedules and had expectations for how it should go, not knowing what was ahead of them, that they found disappointment in it. And ultimately, like that's a great lesson to learn on the trails. You can only go as far as you can go every day, and
Yeah.
you just kind of have to accept that, and whether you're going to continue walking or not. And you watch a lot of people quit doing something that's awesome because they're disappointed for no reason. they had this idea that they should do something in a certain amount of time, and it doesn't really work out, and so they quit or give up, or they blow all their money sitting at a hotel room, trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and it's just kind of like it's actually really easy just to sleep in a tent, stinky, and get up and like walk every day and like look at mountains and trees and animals and hang out. And it was just that for me was like just a great experience to realize that like life is just kind of happening at the same rate no matter how you perceive it. And if you look at it in this anxious way of like you're never meeting the schedule, like yeah, you're never meeting the schedule, but maybe it's like unobtainable. So maybe you should
That's
just
fair.
dial it back a little bit and realize that you're just a person and you're on a path and you can do what you can do, and it's awesome that you can do that. Should be
Fantastic.
live your life in a simple way, man. It's very helpful.
Yeah, these long distance hikes, for example, I mean, they are an extreme endeavor. It's taking like 6 months out of your life to hike from, on the PCT, for example, from Mexico to Canada, or on the AT, you're hiking from Georgia to Maine. And I hiked with a bunch of other veterans, and only 4 out of the 10 veterans that started finished. I think it's probably similar rates on the PCT for Forsyth's trip, and it's a lot of just people getting in their own heads, and yeah, I don't know, not having realistic expectations. Maybe something is sort of trying to prove something to yourself or to others, or but I think if you're going to go out and do these activities, you should really just do it for yourself and not be taking other people or other people's impressions into consideration.
Hmm.
I
That's a
think I
good
think
point.
that's the easiest way to do it, and I think that's really the lesson too. Is what we're talking about is like that the way of accomplishing something difficult, like through hiking across the country, which really isn't that difficult if you do it. You have a different perspective when you do it. Is that if you approach your life in that way of just taking things one step at a time and not overwhelming yourself about your grandiose goals or what you should have accomplished already or whatever, instead of just continuing to accomplish it, that's the important thing. And that really, as they say, the journey is like the really important thing. And like as I told you, when I finished the trail, I was disappointed. When you get to the end and you're kind of done, you either just turn around, like walk it again, or you just finish up. So like all the important stuff happens in between. So you have to learn to enjoy your life in that same way, and make every day like, yeah, you have your goals for the day. If you can meet them, that's great. Exceed them, that's awesome. If you can't even meet them, it is what it is, man. You got to get up the next day and just do the same thing again.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and make sure you check out Veteran Outdoor Alliance.org. Fair winds following seas. We'll see you next time here in the Smoke Pit.